One thing I love about selling software online is that your business is automatically international. You don't have to worry about shipping, customs tariffs, or any of the things that affect physical products and make them so complex. However, there are still some important things that you need to know about selling internationally. Let's talk about them now.
This is WP Product Talk, a place where every week we bring you insights, product marketing, business management and growth, customer experience, product development, and more. It's your go-to podcast for WordPress product owners by WordPress product owners. And now, enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Katie Keith, founder and CEO at Barn2.
And I'm Zack, Katz, founder and CEO of GravityKit.
And today we're talking about selling products internationally.
And that's why we have invited Steve Jones today. Steve, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, guys. My name's Steve Jones. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Equalize Digital. We specialize in accessibility software, services, and training, including the Accessibility Checker plugin, which helps ensure websites meet WCAG compliance. I've been building and selling WordPress products for well over a decade, and I've learned a lot about what it takes to serve clients, not just here in the US, but around the globe.
Well, we're going to be looking forward to learning more about your findings and sharing our own. So, Steve, why is this an important topic for WordPress product owners?
Well, I mean, it's an important topic because from our perspective, our company specializes in accessibility, right? And accessibility is all about being inclusive to everybody, regardless of their abilities, right? And if you want to be inclusive in that regard, it's probably well fit to be inclusive in the regard of people that speak different languages or live in different regions or live under jurisdictions that have different laws and requirements. And I think it's just the right thing to do if you create great software and you create something that adds value to make it accessible to as many people as possible. I think there's a business aspect to that as well, too, right? If you put in the time, the effort, the money, the investment into creating software, you want to reach as big of an audience as you can to maximize your returns on that software so that you can keep moving it along, keep generating it, and keep making it better for all of your users.
Yeah, that's very true. And yeah, it's good for business, but also it's just the right thing to do, the legal thing to do in many cases. But there's a lot of different threads to it. So let's start by going into our show and tell section, where we talk about some of our work that we've each done to do with internationalizing our business. Do you want to go first, Steve? Because I know you've done some amazing work recently on the translation side of things.
Sure, totally. Yeah, so we have recently, we sponsored WordCamp Europe, and we sent Amber and Chris, our CEO and CTO, down there to represent us, and this was part of our push to help support the European Accessibility Act. And at the same time, we kind of had some discussion back and forth internally with us owners about, is the plugin ready for full translations? Should we translate it all now? There's recently been a lot of developments in AI translations. Is it ethical to use AI translations, right? You have all these questions about it. So there's the technical aspect of it. There's kind of the ethical aspect of it. And we kind of came to the determination that, hey, let's spend a couple of days seeing if we could implement this. And those couple of days turned into 3 weeks. But because Accessibility Checker is a suite of plugins at this point, it's 5 separate plugins. And there's a free plugin that actually is distributed through WordPress.org. And then we have a pro plugin and 3 add-ons that are distributed ourselves, and we use EDD. And there's different methods that you would take to translate those different plugins in those different areas. So we have had a little bit of translation work and a little bit of contributions from the Polyglot team to translate like German. We had that like 90%, and 90% translated, and then a few other. I have a screen. We can pull up my screen here, and I can do the show part of my show and tell, and I'll try to describe what I'm showing as we go along.
All right, let's take a look.
Okay, so like I mentioned, when you distribute your free plugin through WordPress.org, there is what's called GlotPress. I'm showing the translate.wordpress.org website for our accessibility checker plugin, and you can see what's been translated on the screen. I'm showing German at like 78% translated, and Dutch at 42% translated, and Spanish at 14, and then it goes down a few languages. The interesting thing, once you hit a certain threshold, it will actually initiate the translation on your WordPress.org page. I'm looking at WordPress.org/plugins/accessibility-checker. So here you can see we have 5 languages. And you can see that like once you hit a certain threshold, then it pops up here. So you're kind of reliant on translation contributors translating your strings for you.
Which is volunteer labor that has its own ethical implications, and
Yeah.
And we've had such trouble with this as well in the past, where you just rely on people. Every 8 months they might have a spurt of translations, but then whenever as a developer I add a translatable string, I feel bad.
Yeah.
Because I know that somebody's going to have to translate this, and if it's more verbose than it needs to be, or if it has some complex structure that has like placeholders that get replaced, the more complex the string, the worse I would feel about adding new strings. So I would leave old, badly written labels with capitalization that was inconsistent because I didn't want to burden the translator.
Right.
And that is absurd. So that's one. We've also switched to AI translations, and I feel no shame or guilt about adding wonderful, beautiful language to my plugins now.
So do you have any evidence as to the quality of AI translations?
Yeah. So I'll answer that, but let me speak to what Zack said. Yes. So our German was actually 90%. And then we actually made some changes with the way that our JavaScript compiles. We actually fixed some of the translations that were actually being dropped in the compile phase, and it dropped us from 90% down to 78%. So there's now more strings in there, and the translation contributors actually, I think, has reduced. The team has even reduced since COVID. So it's very hard to get this translated into all the languages that you need. So to your point, to your question, Katie, we decided to go with this PTC. This was a recommendation that our CEO, Amber Hines, got, and she sent it over to me to take a look and to see if we can implement this. So I'm on ptc.wpml.org, and their catchphrase says your AI-powered translation software, I think it's somewhere, maybe they removed it. It says better than human translations every time, right? So it's like, I can't fully validate whether or not these are actually better than human, and I really don't know what that means, but like, it's a good tagline. So what we did was we kind of did a test. We rolled this up a little bit, and we ran our pot file, which is the file that holds all your translation strings through here, and then we kind of put together a build for Amber. While she was in Europe, she grabbed a few people and said, hey, you speak Dutch, you speak German, can you validate this? How does this look? And the feedback that she got was it looks pretty good. Sure, there may be a few things here and there that can change, but the feedback was good.
Our past guest, Jack Arturo, ran a tool that my team created called Podomatic, and I'll be talking about this after this. And their feedback was they had a German customer review it in depth, and there was one issue that was a word that should have been added to a dictionary, which you can do. You can define a dictionary term that should let it know that this means this. So when you say slug, you don't mean the slimy creature that crawls over your garden. You mean the URL endpoint. So you can add dictionary terms like that and improve and refine. So when people who use your software say, hey, this string is improperly translated, you can fix that, and it will be fixed forever as you go forward. So it learns, as AI is wont to do, how to better translate your software as you go.
Yeah, totally. And we even got feedback like the word like get accessibility checker, I think that's what it was. Like in like maybe in Dutch, it like means get it for free, and that's not exactly what we're saying. But so I can walk you through a little bit too about that. So the way that this ptc.wpml.org works is you actually set it to watch a GitHub branch. So we set it to watch our develop branch, and anytime that we push up a pot file with changed strings inside of it, it will actually auto generate all the MO and PO files, which are your translation files, and up to 32 different languages. And the interesting thing about it too is that in the dashboard for this application, you actually can edit this and manage it just like you would on Polyglot on WordPress.org, where I'm showing the admin, and you can see all of my strings in English, and then you can see a column almost like a spreadsheet, where you can edit the languages in every language. So if there's a translation that somebody comes back to us and says, hey, this says get accessibility checker, but it's pro and you're going to charge me, but in my language, get means you're like giving it to me for free. We could actually go in here for that particular language, and we can edit it to a phrase that they provide to us and have confirmed that this is a better string to use. And it'll actually override that with what's in our pot file. So if we push up a new pot file with that same string, it'll actually pull from what we've edited here.
And from a development standpoint, you can also, just FYI for those listening who don't know this, when you translate a string in WordPress, you can also provide context. So when you say get accessibility checker, you can also add a context string to it that says, when I say get, I mean purchase.
Yeah.
And then that will be read by and processed by PTC and Podomatic and other automated translations. And also for the translators that don't know that get accessibility checker means purchase.
Yeah. So this was kind of a great tool for that. And we even ran into too, where we in our plugin, you want to be making sure that your plugin or your theme that you're selling is translatable. I kind of skipped over that a little bit, but making sure you're using translation functions that wrap your strings. And when we went through that process, we've been doing that over many years, making sure that's why this process was a little easy, because most of our strings were already translatable. And we were able to ensure that through our own linting and our own CI processes. And quite frankly, if you use an AI code reviews such as CodeRabbit or Gemini code reviews, those a lot of times will catch untranslated strings as well. We kind of translated too many strings, so we translated our own product names. And the nice thing about PTC is that it has a glossary where you can actually put in like for like accessibility checker, we don't want to translate that. So in all languages, it's going to be accessibility checker, and we can just manage that from here. We don't have to untranslate the string inside of all the plugins. And with every pull, we can know that those branded phrases are always going to be branded.
And for those strings that shouldn't be translated as well, One thing that we found is you want to add short codes to the glossary. If you have short codes, you do not want the short codes to be translated if they include
Good point.
translatable words.
Yeah, it's a great point. So for us, as a development team, we've learned that if we don't automate it, we're going to have a hard time following it and keeping up with it. So we had to build this into our continuous integration to ensure that we keep up with it, that my developers keep up with it, and any new developers that come on the team or anybody that contributes to our free plugin, because it's a public repo that anybody can submit PRs to. We had to build this into our CI. And I'll just kind of run through this real quick because it gets highly technical. But basically what we've done is we created a workflow inside of GitHub. I'm looking at github.com right now, and I'm looking at the accessibility checker repo, and I've pulled up a GitHub workflow. It's my developer named it Make Pot. I think he's being funny here, but this is a workflow that generates a pot file. So you can use the WordPress CLI in your command line to generate a pot file from all of your translatable strings. Well, we don't want to have to manually do that every time. So once you push up to the develop branch, it's watching, this workflow will run. It essentially rolls up WordPress install and runs the proper WP CLI commands to generate the pot file and the JSON file. So a .mo or a .po file, which is generated by PTC for us off of the pot file, those are actually the files with the translatable strings in them. The .po is a human readable one, and the .mo is a machine file that's not human readable. And you could actually just distribute the .mo file. And those work for PHP. For JavaScript, you got to use JSON files for your translation strings. So this will generate the pot file. It goes to PTC. PTC watches that branch. It creates the translations. It pushes those translations back to GitHub for us as a PR to that initial PR, and then we can just merge it in, and it'll actually generate the JSON strings. We ran into some issues with PTC and JSON. We chose to do the JSON the WordPress way, and I think that PTC does some sort of chunking of the JSON strings, and we weren't able to really get that to work for the way we have things set up. So we actually will generate those ourselves with the same workflow after we get the translations back. And so you can see the first PR here. This is our workflow. It runs. I'm looking at a new PR here. It's called update transition files. So if I like Zach said, he updates a string. We don't have to have a heart attack because we updated a string. This will actually just identify it. It will update the pot file. PTC will see this. It'll now PTC. I've switched over to a new PR where PTC is opened, and you can see I have 100 files in here because these are all the translations files here. So we have these. We've got all our translations. This is all done automatically, and it's going to be done in CI, so no developer can actually bypass this. And this ensures that strings are all translated moving forward.
Nice. And we will make sure to add these URLs that you're showing to the show notes so that people, if they're listening or watching and they want to look more at what the YAML file for MakePot looks like, you can check out our show notes at wpproducttalk.com for this episode.
Yeah, good plan. So that is translating the actual plugins. But what about translating the information that leads people to buy our plugins? So every time I go to a WordCamp, I meet somebody from either Weglot or TranslatePress, and they convince me that it's an amazing idea to translate our website. And I can never decide because I live in Spain, and it is very easy as a user for me to right click or whatever and translate in the browser. It's not a barrier for me if a website is Spanish only and not translated into English. But what these translation plugin people are telling me is that it's a massive SEO opportunity, because if people are typing, for example, in Spanish, they might be typing product table for WooCommerce in Spanish, and my plugin is called WooCommerce product table and not the translated version. So I'm not going to rank for a Spanish language search term, or at least not as well than if I actually translated my website into Spanish. And so apparently we could improve our ranking significantly by translating our website. So I'm currently in the early stages of planning a project to trial that for maybe a couple of languages, not our whole site, but our product pages and the entire purchase flow, so the checkout and everything. And just to see, and then we will measure, do we actually rank more highly? I'd love to know, do either of you translate your websites? Have you got any evidence that is it worth doing for either the user or for the SEO?
So I was just reviewing a product page for a friend in WordPress that they were putting together for a course, and they asked me what they thought, or what I thought, and it looked great. It looked like a really good product. I was sold, and then I got down to the bottom, and it said 219 euros. I was like, what the hell? I don't know what euros are. I know they're less than they used to be compared to the US dollar, or the US dollar is worse. They're more than. It made me think. And the goal with websites is don't make me think. And so I agree, Katie, that many international users have Google Translate built into their browser, or like similar thing where like they come to a website and it's automatically translated. I don't think that we're losing sales other than the SEO opportunities because of translation. I do think that we are probably losing sales due to not showing prices in their native currency, but also not having international pricing. And I got I hope that we can talk about this. I know we've talked about it a little bit in the past on WP Product Talk, but I had somebody reach out to me from India and say, listen, your products are amazing, and they're really expensive here in India. What can you do? And I'm a startup. I don't have much funds. So I'd love to talk about international pricing as well as currency display.
Yeah, they're both relevant, and I do have experience of both of those. So we sell in 7 currencies based on the areas that the majority of our customers are. When we first introduced that, I didn't actually measure an increase in conversion rates, and I did check. But once you've done it, it's very hard to go back. So we've just kept it. But I don't have any numbers to say to you that's going to improve your conversion rates. I've also tried country-specific pricing, specifically for India, for the reason that you mentioned. We noticed in our analytics that a huge proportion of our visitors were from India, but a tiny proportion of our sales were. Right. And that may well be because of the price barrier. So we did an experiment where, because we were already using a multi-currency plugin, we were able to set different prices per country quite easily. So we set a manual price that was much lower for India and saw how that went. And when we measured it over about 6 months, we found that we vastly increased the number of sales from India, but that was the exact same proportion as the price that we had dropped it. So if it was a third of the price, then we tripled it, if that makes sense. Then we tripled the number, therefore profit was the same. Anything you do that adds complexity has to have a clear benefit. So we no longer offer cheaper prices for any country, but we do set the currency pricing based on some clever rules and things. It's not just an automatic translation. So there is that.
What do you do, Steve?
Yeah, we don't. We just have standard, like you said, we try to keep things as simple as possible for a small team trying to make a big impact. So we don't do any, multi-currency pricing in that regard. back to the question about like translations, on your website for your marketing pages, we don't currently do that either. Like you said, the browser can translate those pages for people, but things can get lost in translation. It's interesting. It'd be an interesting experiment to maybe pick a language. Like we've had a lot of movement in German for some reason, and maybe that would be a good experiment to try to translate that to those marketing pages to see if there is any net SEO benefit. I can see that Amber said in the comments that Taco said that they did this at Yoast and that there was no trackable benefit to it. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, Amber's comment is, I talked to Taco about this and he said they did this at Yoast and saw no benefit or trackable increase in sales.
Yeah.
And
So
if they did it at
and that's
Yoast,
worrying, actually.
Yeah.
Those are far bigger than us. They would have much better data. So that's very interesting.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't know if it's a bias that our sales numbers versus our visit numbers show that our best sales are in U.S., Canada, England, Australia, Germany, France, Italy, kind of in that order.
Same.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Greater Asia, including India, and thinking there are billions of people using hundreds of millions of websites. Surely there are customers there, and I've tried to target them in the past, and using pay-per-click specifically, and the cost of acquiring a customer there is very high relative to the cost, the revenue that we get from it. And if we cut our costs, or if we cut the pricing, the margin goes down. We're not able to provide the same level of support. I do wonder, though, if the answer for those areas might be an introduction to our services, because I know that a lot of people are using GPL Vault, like other GPL site services, where they pay much less and they get the software that's pirated or whatever. Instead of doing that, we could offer a no support download license where there's an expectation that, yes, you get the software, you can use our docs, you are not able to contact support without paying a higher amount. And that way we protect our margins, and they're able to get access to our wonderful tools without breaking their own bank.
Yeah, and we had a little bit when we were going through the discussion on the translations on whether we should kind of push forward with that. And we experienced the same thing, right? We don't do a lot in Asia, but we do a lot in Europe and the United States, and my lead developer on the plugin, he's from Europe, and he had a lot of feedback about this, and the thing about Europeans is we get the benefit and the reward of Europeans really knowing English as a second language and being a lot of times being taught it in
or fifth,
or a fifth language. Yeah. So it's like, they're buying the product now because they can actually read the English translates the English language. So it was kind of like, do we really translate it to, German and all these languages because they actually speak English too? And I don't know if that's why we can sell so easily to Europe without a lot of effort. And maybe that's the disconnect, when you go over to Asia, is that really they don't have English as a second language. And
I think the web developers pretty much all do, though, don't they? The Indian web developers have amazing English.
Yeah.
Yeah, the language barrier in India isn't so much an issue. They also speak English as a first or second language, I believe. But it's the amount of funds that are available to purchase, and that, I think, is a vicious cycle as well. If they don't have access to tools where they can increase their own sales, how can they pay for ours?
Yeah, definitely an issue. So another thing that we haven't covered yet is the tax side of things, which is, I know, a big worry for a lot of people when they start selling WordPress products, particularly people that have maybe previously sold on a marketplace or something that did that for them. I know a lot of people, for example, have previously sold on the Envato marketplaces and then suddenly don't anymore because of things that have happened over there. And they're like, what do I do with tax? I just know it's one of the bigger pain points. And the thing a lot of people don't realize, particularly Americans, is that if you sell digital products to customers in Europe, you actually have to sort out the European tax. It doesn't matter where your business is based. It's about where the customer is based. And all software, all theme and plugin companies sell to customers in Europe. So that means that you have to register for European tax and UK tax, because that's no longer in the EU. And you have to let them enter a VAT number on the checkout and reverse charge that if they've got one. If not, then you charge them, say, the German VAT if they're in Germany and don't have a VAT number, and then you have to pay that over to the centralized European tax service. It's a nightmare. I do not agree with the law, but that is the law, and all plugin and theme companies should be actually meeting that. And I would say the easiest way to do that is to use something like Freemius or Paddle to sell your theme or plugins, rather than doing it on your own website directly, because they'll do it for you. That means that they're the merchant of record and not you, so they're responsible. But lots don't. We use Easy Digital Downloads, and it was such a problem that we've actually got a plugin for this, EDD VAT, which loads of plugin companies use because it's like the only way. And EDD don't even make it possible. Same with Woo. If you're selling on Woo, you need to use a plugin to sort all this out, and it's not part of core. So do either of you do anything with European VAT? I know a lot of plugin companies don't.
I would be hounded by Vova great if I did not say, Freemius is the probably easiest and best way to do this. Having a merchant of record has so many benefits, but it also, in my mind, has some drawbacks where you don't necessarily own the customer relationship. They do. Freemius, they have a for those who are wondering, they say that they are willing and able to transfer your customers out. So like if you don't want to stay with them, you can transfer it to your own Stripe account, which is good. The merchant of record has other benefits, including that they handle some refund customer support if you want them to. In Paddle specifically, I've spoken with them about this, where they can handle all refund requests and you don't have to be involved at all, which is also scary to me as somebody who wants to control the customer experience.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that. We want
I wouldn't want that
rescue
either.
them.
Right.
But billing and pricing, billing questions and refunds are a large portion of any plugin company's support load. So that would free up our support team to do, to spend more time on non-billing issues. So there are some upsides and downsides.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the VAT, it's different for B2C and B2B, right? Like, do you?
Yeah, but you still need to do it. So B2B have to be able to prove they're a business by entering their VAT number,
right?
And then that reverse charges the tax, and then you have to give them a certain type of invoice as evidence. So you have to comply either way, even if your customers are businesses. It's really annoying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know in the United States, there's actually certain states, it's on a state by state basis, have certain tax regulations about charging tax on digital products. And but in the United States, a lot of times there's a threshold, right? It's either a 500 or most states are like a 500,000 threshold, and some are like $100,000 threshold. So that's definitely something on our side for the United States that we definitely monitor those buckets a little bit to see if there's something at some point in time where we need to start charging that tax for U.S. customers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I'd like to ask y'all what you do for handling support in multiple languages? Like, what setups do you have? How do you have your customer support team manage people who are not natively English speakers?
Yeah, so for us, we don't have that support, and I don't know that we've ever gotten a ticket in a language other than English, and we typically our support is pretty straightforward. We have somebody that runs first tier support, and then if it's an issue that can't be resolved there, then it gets escalated to the dev team, to one of our developers to look at. So we haven't really run into that issue too much. We do have native Spanish speakers on our team. If somebody did contact us that speaks Spanish, but we luckily have not run into it so far.
Yeah, so we keep doing that. We're putting on the same comments at the same time. So Ian says have Google Translate in another tab. I was about to say the same thing. So we do receive occasional support tickets in other languages. We just Google Translate it. Our support is almost all email or live chat based, so it's really easy to use an automatic translator. And so we try to reply in the customer's language. It doesn't matter that we can't check it there. It's good enough.
Yeah, I was thinking in advance of our talk today that we could make some optimizations to our own support flow where we could say in the description field for the what's going on, just use your own language. It's fine, because the implicit, I imagine implicitly people want to try to write it in English, and that results in tickets that for non-English native speakers, the quality of the tickets is terrible. If you've done customer support, you realize how much is lost in translation when somebody tries to say what's going on with their very specific website issue or plugin issue. So I'm thinking we add that and then maybe automatically have another field get translated after the support ticket is submitted that translates it automatically using OpenAI. There's so many cool things you could do. Use IP address to I just love AI, how it opens up the automation and the ability for us to spend more time doing stuff like this that otherwise would have taken weeks or months to implement, where we can just say let's have a 2-day project, Steve, like you were saying. Let's have a sprint, a little minor sprint, and see what we can do and to improve our customers' experience on this.
No, that's great. And I think that's something we should all be looking at refining and making better. And like you said, even something as small as just a sentence that says,
Right.
hey, we're being inclusive to people that speak different languages. We don't assume that you speak English, speak to us in whatever you're comfortable with. It's great feedback. Yeah.
The thing is, what if everything else is in English? So they've had to navigate there in English,
Right.
and the form is in English. If you translate, there's always going to be something that isn't your knowledge base and all of that. It's really hard to be fully consistent. Or maybe like the emails as well that they receive after they buy the product. Yeah, sure, they can translate it in the browser easily enough, but it's very hard to be all-encompassing into your support for translations.
Katie, why aren't we translating our emails? This is easy. That's an easy win to have a tab for our customers, and I assume that these translation plugins have it. What language do you speak, and then have emails sent in their language. That would be so easy to do.
But we're not even translating our websites yet, though.
Yeah, the emails I think are more important though. I don't know, does Apple Mail, for example, have built-in translations? Not that I'm aware of. But browsers do if people use Gmail, but
I know Gmail, and that's fine. Yeah. So we've got some comments from Ian again about what they do at Kestrel. He says, we copied Zack with the AI translations in products, and people have only complained once about a single word that was sort of imprecise. I think that's a good point. Humans also do make mistakes with translations, and that's a good success rate, isn't it?
And when humans break translations, it can cause fatal errors. We have had twice, I think, in our 10-year run for GravityView, we've had human translated strings that missed a placeholder, and if you have a mismatch of the number of placeholders in the string, that causes a fatal error and brings down a site. So we distributed a translation that we didn't review because we just had people doing it volunteer basis. I think AI translations are going to be not only more precise, but also less likely to break customers' sites.
Yeah, it's always improving. And Ian goes on to say, we disclose that we're translating support and then include the English after their language too. That's quite a nice way to do it. So I think I've done that in the past, although we don't have a policy, where I might write Google Translate : and then the Italian and then the English. I suppose that covers you if you are concerned about it being inaccurate or something like that.
Right. Well, I'm excited about all the different things that we that we can implement after our conversation today, including I'm going to translate some emails.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover, isn't there? It's really weird because we sell internationally. Anybody in the world can go on our websites and buy our products, and yet there's all this stuff to think about even so.
So there is another aspect of international sales and marketing and stuff that I think we should probably cover, which is the aspect of color and color having different meanings. And an easy one to describe is red in English speaking languages is often associated with stop or bad or warning or danger, and red in China and other Asian countries is often associated with prosperity and good luck. And so when you're translating a page, it might have unintended side effects that where if you seem almost native in the language, but you have other cultural cues that aren't fully understood, it might have a mixed message that could result in issues. So just be aware of cultural sensitivity stuff, not just translating words.
Should we be sending our designers on international color courses or something? Because you don't want a different color scheme for different cultures, but maybe if they could be aware and they could go for something that is appropriate for their call to action color and so on in all around the world.
Yeah, call to action buttons, I think, especially. And then you might as well take a screenshot of your landing page and send it to ChatGPT and say, hey, what's there to fix here?
Yeah, that would work. Like red buttons are a real no-no in most of the world, but that might really encourage people to buy in China. But then China is a whole nother issue. We get almost no traffic, no sales from China. I've tried to do deals with people from China who approached me. They said, for example, that they would translate our blog posts into Chinese and publish them on their own website. Nothing. We've just never cracked China. Do you two have many sales in China?
No.
Taiwan. Taiwan's up there in like top 25 countries.
Yeah, that's not China.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that sure, we've got tax and we got translations and stuff, but I think since we got an accessibility guy here, I think that I'd be remiss not to kind of lean in on that a little bit here and kind of say selling internationally or even, local to the US, accessibility is a huge consideration, especially for selling, website products, whether it be a theme or a plugin. In the United States, we have the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and we have Section 508, laws which require that entities that take on federal funds actually make their websites accessible. That they have to have a certain level of compliance with WCAG guidelines. And more recently, just like last month, the European Accessibility Act went into effect, and this requires that European countries actually meet, and I think it goes way more. It's way more broad than even the U.S., where the U.S. is limited to federal, people that take on federal funds. I think the European Accessibility Act extends to most businesses have to create accessible websites, and there are thresholds. Sure, like I think in the European Accessibility Act, it's like 10 plus employees for your company, $2 million in revenue, or I think in Europe they call it turnover. So if you're selling internationally, be it you're selling from Europe or you're selling from the US, I think that accessibility is a huge consideration for your product, and giving your customers that comfort, that you can say, hey, we've developed this plugin to be accessible, and it will meet the European Accessibility Act, or it will comply with the the American with Disabilities Act.
Yeah, we do get pre-sales inquiries about that. Are our plugins accessible to their local standard? Often we don't know. It's like a specific state in the US or something. So we try to answer positively with what we do know, or what we would do if they found an issue or something. But you do need to do what you can with that.
Yeah, and Ian writes, we added some milestone notices and a few plugins and tried to add personality. Phrases like hot dog or cowabunga led to, as an emphasis, led to very confusing translations.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, a hot dog definitely means multiple things, doesn't it?
It means
Why does it say hot
Get
dog?
that dog some water.
Or the food or whatever. But it's interesting, isn't it? You try to add personality, but actually that's very culturally specific often. I often think about that with the language that I'm using, because I think would a non-native English speaker have been taught this word, and often they wouldn't have done.
Right. And another idea that this episode has inspired in me is we have easy digital downloads populating our READMEs, but our READMEs are in English. We do pass along to that request the language that the site is using. So it would not be hard for us to serve a different README in different languages, which would be a good thing to do.
No, I'm adding that to my to-do list.
Okay, well, I think we have covered many different aspects of the international side of things, and there are a lot of aspects to consider. So let's bring it together and move on to our best advice on where to get started with this. So what's the one piece of advice you'd give to somebody? So do you want to go first, Steve?
Sure. So my advice would be to I'm always looking for maximum impact for minimum effort, right? And I think as far on the accessibility side, there's a free plugin called Accessibility Checker that you could download. That is
interesting. That's your best
How
advice.
convenient.
How convenient. Is extremely full featured. Our full rule set is in there, and you can start working on resolving and identifying accessibility issues on your websites like today.
That's good advice.
It actually starts to fix some but overall, I would say, like, in accessibility, we're always stressing the importance of shifting left, which is basically, implementing accessibility from the start. And I think if you're creating a WordPress product these days, we're in the times of AI being able to generate plugins super quick, right? But I would take steps and measures to think about your product as an international product, and what can you implement now that's going to save you lots of time later. If you just start translating strings inside of or making your strings translatable inside of your products, when it comes time to implement those translations, you're going to be so much further ahead of the ball. You don't want to get into a product where you have 10, 20,000 lines of code and you realize, hey, we haven't translated any of these. And now you have to go back into a major refactor, which can be very disruptive to your your release schedule and your product itself, and can introduce bugs. So just try to think of your product as an international product from the start. Think about privacy, think about accessibility, think about tax, and think about translations.
Yeah, my advice would be, do what's proportionate to the scale and stage of your business. So you should always meet legal requirements. The simplest way, you use accessibility checker for the accessibility. Think about things like the VAT side of things. If you want to keep it simple, use something like Freemius. If you're using EDD, then use my plugin. If we're doing shameless plugs like Steve did. But whatever you do, think of something that's right for the scale of your business. If you're just starting, you shouldn't be translating your website into every language, for example. You probably shouldn't be doing multi-currency. These are all things that you can do as your business grows. So I'd say choose the level that's right for you now and keep assessing that in the future.
Yeah, and for me, based on Taco at Yoast saying that it didn't really pay to try to focus on different markets internationally, I would say don't. I think make sure that you're translatable. Make sure you follow international law. But
I'm going to email him actually and get some more information.
oh yeah, please
because
do.
I was starting a project on that, so I'm just writing.
Yeah, and it's always a
note.
question: is it worth it? And the answer apparently is no. I think a good landing page is a good landing page, and anything we can focus on for that would be great. And I do think perhaps loading in different style sheets based on IP addresses makes sense, and having different color schemes perhaps, and like maybe even translating. But it seems like a lot more work than maybe is necessary to close that sale. So my advice is don't worry about it and focus on building and releasing accessible translatable plugins.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you, Steve, so much for joining us. Where can people find you online?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. You can find me at equalizedigital.com, stevejones.blog, and pretty much everywhere else on the socials at stevejonesdev.
All right. Well, next week, our co-host Matt Cromwell and I will be chatting with Matt Batchelder about the infrastructure and tools of running a WordPress business. I love this topic. So put it in your calendar now. Don't miss it. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and special thanks to Post Status for being our green room. If you're enjoying these shows, then do us a favor and click and hit like, subscribe, share it with your friends, put this show in your podcasts and newsletters and mention it everywhere. And don't forget to tune in again next week. Bye.